गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरा गुरुसाक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः.
Good morning, students. So this is the second session of second chapter. So I already completed the primary memory concepts in this chapter. In memory, we know already two types of memories are there: primary memory and a secondary memory. So primary is a temporary memory. It's also called as main memory. So secondary memory is a permanent memory. It can store large amount of data. So last class we discussed primary memory. Just I'll repeat few things on that and I'll continue this session. So as I told you, memory is an information storage device. Two types of memories, primary and secondary. Primary is a temporary memory, also called as main memory. Two important primary memories are ROM and RAM. ROM means read only memory. So in this memory, we can read the information, but we cannot write anything on it. So it is a read only memory, specially meant for set the platform for a computer to do any job. So in read only memory, in your syllabus we have three types. Still many types of ROMs are there. So generally we have three types, that is PROM, EPROM, EEPROM. PROM means programmable read only memory. EPROM means erasable programmable read only memory. EEPROM, electrically erasable programmable read only memory. Programmable read only memory is once writable. We cannot do any changes over there. We can't erase and we can't restore. That's why it is called as once writable. Programmable read only memory is once writable memory. And next, the second one is erasable programmable read only memory. The information which is stored in this type of ROM can be erased using ultraviolet rays, UV rays. So with the help of UV rays, we can erase the contents of this ROM and we can restore it. So this is what erasable programmable read only memory. The third one is electrically erasable programmable read only memory. So in this type of ROM, we can erase the contents by exposing it into electric charges. So through electric charges, we can erase the contents and we can restore the contents. So this is the third type of ROM. These are three types of ROMs are there: programmable read only memory, erasable programmable read only memory, electrically erasable programmable read only memory. So it is a non-volatile memory because it is fixed one. Even though we switched off our computer, the contents won't erase. That's why it is called as non-volatile memory. Usually when we boot the system, this type of ROM will help the computer to bring the operating system into working condition from secondary memory to primary memory. So then, comes to RAM. Random access memory. We can also call it as read and write memory. So RAM is a very important primary memory because it is capable of storing and also we can extract the data which is already stored from secondary memory to primary. So RAM is capable of both read and write. So it is a main memory. Normally, the speed of RAM is faster than secondary memory. I told you in the last class, primary memory, that too RAM capacity is one of the reason which decides the speed of computer. If the RAM capacity increases, automatically processing speed will become faster. Generally, hardware engineers will check if the system gets slowed, whether it is affected with virus. If not any symptoms of virus, then automatically they will check the RAM capacity. So RAM capacity is also one of the factor for processing speed. If the RAM increases, automatically processing speed will become faster. So here in RAM, whenever you switch it off your computer, automatically contents of this primary memory, that is RAM, will be erased. So given there is a power failure, then also it will lose the data. So whenever you switch it on your computer, till shutdown, it will go and stores the information. That is what RAM. It is a volatile memory. RAM is a volatile memory because always information will get changed. We can store and retrieve, we can erase. So that's why this type of primary memory is called as RAM, that is volatile memory. Generally, there are two types of RAMs are there, static RAM and dynamic RAM. In addition to that, one more is included, that is EDO RAM. EDO RAM means extended data output RAM, random access memory. So mainly we have that two types, that is static and dynamic. Static RAM stands for remains, that is stationary. Once you switch it on your computer, until you shut down or power failure, the contents will be stored continuously. So such type of random access memory is called static RAM. So static RAM will hold the information until you shut down or power failure. Continuously it will store the data. Whereas in case of dynamic RAM, it will get refreshed at periodically. So at very lesser time, within nanoseconds, split seconds, it will get refreshed. So you can add new data over there very easily. That is the difference between static RAM and dynamic RAM. Static RAM continuously stores the data. Dynamic RAM will get refreshed periodically at regular intervals of time. So this is what the difference between static RAM and dynamic RAM. And comes to DD or RAM. See, we need to store more amount of data in RAM too, because it has to work continuously. So to increase the capacity, to enhance the capacity, we use a concept called as DD or RAM, double data rate random access memory. Sometimes in the examination they will ask you expansion form of DDR RAM. So expansion form of DDR RAM is double data rate random access memory. So one more RAM is used, that is earlier to DDR RAM, that is SD RAMs, synchronous dynamic random access memory. So after SD RAMs, DDR RAMs will come. Then in DDR2, now we are using DDR2 RAM. So second version is the double data rate, second version random access memory. So to increase the capacity of RAM, we will use DDR2 RAMs nowadays. So these are very fast computer memories. So generally in the final examination, you can expect a question like the difference between ROM and RAM. You can answer it. ROM stands for read-only memory. RAM stands for random access memory. Read-only memory is used just for reading purpose. We cannot write anything over there. Whereas in case of random access memory, we can do both, read and write. That's why it is called as random access memory or read and write memory. So read-only memory is non-volatile memory because of its fixedness. We can't erase and we can't restore. Whereas in case of random access memory, it is volatile. Each time it will get changed. So then, types of ROMs are PROM, EPROM, EEPROM. Types of RAM, static RAM and dynamic RAM. So these are the few differences we feel in these two things, that is ROM and RAM. Most expectable question from an examination point of view. Either they will ask you explain ROM, explain RAM, or they will also, we can expect a question difference between ROM and RAM. Next we'll go for secondary memory. See, secondary memory means it is a permanent information storage device. In this device, we can store the data permanently until user erases it. Normally, secondary memories are slower than primary memory because it can store large amount of data. Huge amount of data can be stored in the secondary memory. So nowadays, we can store not only text type of data, images, audios, videos, movies and other things. So to store such type of large volume of data, we need secondary storage devices. So this secondary storage devices are capable of storing large amount of data, especially hard disks. Here we have plenty of disks like mainly the secondary memory devices are classified into two categories. One is magnetic media, another one is optical media. So in magnetic media, we find floppy disks, hard disks, magnetic tapes and so on. These are all examples for optical media devices. Magnetic media devices. When it comes to optical media, the three optical media devices are, plenty of optical devices are there. CD-ROMs, DVD-ROMs, Blu-ray discs and so on. These are all optical storage locations, optical storage devices. Mainly, when it comes to magnetic media, the very important magnetic media devices are hard disk, floppy disk, magnetic tapes and so on. See, when it comes to magnetic disks, these are thin circular plastic plates on which some magnetic material is coated. On the surface of the disk, magnetic material is coated. Because of this magnetic nature, we can erase the content and restore the contents. Generally, it will rotate around 7,200 rotations per minute. That's why we can access the data very fastly. The central shafts will rotate around 7,200 rotations per minute. In this disk, the surface of the disk is allocated with number of invisible concentric circles called as tracks. Number of invisible concentric circles are called as tracks, and these circles are divided into number of vertical bisections called as sectors. So memory will be analyzed in the form of tracks and sectors. How much of information is completed, how much of memory is filled, how much remaining, that will be analyzed with the help of tracks and sectors. I'll repeat it again. Concentric circles, invisible circles are called as tracks. Vertical bisections of this particular circles are called sectors. Concentric circles, tracks, vertical bisections, sectors. So with the help of this tracks and sectors, we can analyze the memory capacity. And next, we'll come to know in detail about hard disk. See, hard disk typically contains several rotating disk plates. So, a central shaft holds number of layers in a hard disk. Because of number of layers, we can store large amount of data in hard disks. The surface of the plate is covered with metal oxide. So electromagnetic recording heads are used. It performs read and write operations. See, read and write head is responsible for read and write the information from disk and into this disk. So there is one head for each surface and all head moves together. So central shaft will hold that number of layers on a hard disk. Read and write head will read simultaneously all the layers at a time. The head will move back and forth position. So this disk will rotate around 7200 rotations per minute. Hence, we can extract the data very easily. So modern hard disks, can store up to 8 terabytes of information. It starts with 260 GB, 260 MB actually. Then it is increased up to 8 terabytes nowadays. And next, the surface of the plate is organized as a number of concentric tracks. Each track is divided into sectors. Set of matched tracks are also called as cylinders. The set of matched tracks are called cylinders. See, we have number of layers. At each layer, that track should match to each and every one. So that matched track is called cylinders. So that is what the hard disk. Hard disk is a secondary storage device which can store large amount of data. So central shaft is responsible for holding the number of layers. It will rotate the disk around 7200 rotations per minute. Because of its high speed rotation, we can extract the data very easily even though we have large volume of information in the hard disk. So it is coated with metal oxide. Hence we can store and retrieve the information. Generally, electromagnetic recording heads are used to read and write. Around 8 terabytes of information can be stored in a hard disk. So here also we will use tracks and sectors concept. Concentric circles are called as tracks. Vertical bisections is called as sectors. And set of matched tracks are called cylinders. So next we'll move on to another secondary storage device, that is called floppy disk. Nowadays floppy disks are not used for our general applications because of its less storage capacity. So floppy disk is also secondary storage device used to store the data permanently. It is a single flat piece of circular plate. So it is also coated with metal oxide. It is enclosed in a plastic cover. So it is enclosed with plastic cover. Normally floppy disks are look like square shape, but inside that a single plate that is in a circular form which is used to store and extract the data. It is coated with magnetic material, that is what metal oxide, which is responsible for storing and extracting a data. So these are very small and portable, easy to carry. And the different sizes of floppy disks are, earlier it was 8-inch floppy disk. The size of the disk is larger because the computer size is also larger. So its storage capacity is around 1 MB, 1 megabyte. I already explained the storage capacities, that is zeros and ones are called as binary digits. Combination of 8 bits will give you 1 byte of data. Combination of 1024 bytes will give you 1 kilobyte. 1024 kilobytes are 1 megabyte. So one 8-inch floppy disk is capable of storing 1 megabytes of information. That is 1024 kilobytes. That much of information can be stored in a 8-inch floppy disk, that is 1 MB. Then the size of computer decreases automatically. The size of disk is also reduced. That is floppy disk. So the floppy disk size is reduced from 8-inch to 5 1/4-inch floppy disk. Earlier it was 8-inch, then it is reduced to 5 1/4-inch floppy disk. In 5 1/4-inch floppy disk, we can store data up to 1.22 megabytes of information. The size of disk is reduced, but the storage capacity increased. So, the storage capacity of 8-inch floppy disk is 1 MB, whereas storage capacity of 5 1/4-inch floppy disk is 1.22 megabytes. Then, the size further reduced to 3.5 inches. 3.5-inch floppy disk is capable of storing 1.44 megabytes of information. Its capacity is 1.44 megabytes. And further it is improved, and normally we won't use that 2.66 MB of floppy disk. Generally we used 3.5-inch floppy disk with 1.44 megabytes. And then floppy disks are generally easy to carry the information and transfer the information from one disk to another. In early days, each and every computer system is connected with floppy disk drive. We'll call it as FDD. We can insert this disk and extract the data from that, and also we can store the data into that particular disk. Suppose if you want to transfer the information from one system to another system, before the networking concepts, generally we use this particular disk, that is floppy disk, to transfer the information from one system to another system. So it is very less expensive compared to the other disk drives. Other disks, floppy disks are very less expensive. The cost is very less here. So this is what the floppy disk. So in a floppy disk, an option is provided, that is, we can make that floppy disk as also read only. With the help of write protector notch, we can protect our floppy disk from writable contents. We can read, if we protect the write, then we can read the contents from that memory, that disk, and we cannot write anything onto it. So if write protector allows us, if we move the notch, automatically we can read as well as write. We can convert that also into read only. This is what floppy disk. And we can read and write the contents from this disk with the help of floppy disk drives. And next we'll move on to optical storage locations. Optical disks. See, optical disks consist of rotating disk which is coated with highly reflective material. So the optical media, that is with the help of laser beam, laser light, we can read and we can store the information. The surface of the disk is highly reflective media. So data recording on the disk is done by focusing a laser beam on the surface of the spinning disk. The process of recording data onto an optical disk is called burning. Generally, different types of optical storage devices, optical disks are CD-ROMs, that's what compact disk read-only memory, DVD-ROMs, digital versatile disk read-only memory, BD-ROMs, Blu-ray disks. We'll call it as Blu-ray disc device. These are the important optical storage devices. See, this optical storage device can store more information compared to the floppy disk drives. In magnetic media, we have we had floppy disks. In case of optical media, we can store more information compared to floppy disk. So these are all some of the pictures of optical storage devices. First we'll take CD-ROM. CD-ROM is a compact disk read-only memory. It can store around 600 to 700 MB of data. See, in case of floppy disk, it can store maximum of 1.44 megabytes of information. Whereas in case of CD-ROMs, we can store around 600 to 700 MB of data. Almost 600 times of floppy disks. So large volume of data can be stored in a CD-ROMs. Because of its optical nature, we can store the information for a longer period of time. In case of magnetic material, there may be a chance of fungus infection. Whereas in case of CD-ROMs, it's not like that. It can retain information, it can store information for a longer version of period of time. And CD-ROMs are a bit faster compared to the floppy disk. It is faster to read the information and to write. So in CD-ROMs we have two types, that is once recordable and re-recordable CDs. In case of once recordable, we can store the information only once. Once it is stored, it will get burned. After burning, we cannot restore the information onto the same location. It is once writable disks. We can read any number of times, but while storing the information, we can store only once. Another types of ROMs are there, that is re-recordable compact disk read-only memory. In re-recordable disks, because of its magnetic nature at the surface of the disk, we can restore the contents. It is also highly reflective media, but still it can restore the information. We can, if we want, we can erase and restore the information. That's what recordable CDs and re-recordable CDs. Two types of CD-ROMs are there, recordable and re-recordable CD-ROMs, compact disk read-only memories. To read and write the information from this particular device, we need CD-ROM drives. We need compact disk read-only memory drives. To read floppy disk contents, we need floppy disk drive. To read CD contents, compact disk read-only memory contents, we need CD-ROM drives. Next, we'll move on to DVD-ROM. Digital versatile disk. We can also call it as sometimes digital video disk. So it is a digital versatile disk read-only memory. Here, the storage capacity of this ROM is much more than CD-ROMs. Each DVD, digital versatile disk, is capable of storing around 4.7 gigabytes of information. 4.7 GB of information can be stored in each DVDs, that is digital versatile disk. It can store large amount of data compared to CD-ROMs. DVD can also be either single-sided or double-sided. So it has two layers on each side. A double-sided two-layer DVD will hold up to 17 GB of information. Either we can store video form of data, audio form of data, or any other type of data can be stored in a digital versatile disk. It can store large amount of data compared to CD-ROMs. Then we'll move into Blu-ray disc. Blu-ray disc is referred as PD. Its high storage capacity, it can store from 25 GB to 50 gigabytes of information. Normally it is specially used for high definition movies and other types of information. Large volume of data can be stored in Blu-ray discs. I told you already, nearly from 20 gigabytes to 50 gigabytes of information can be stored in a Blu-ray disc type of ROMs. The name Blu-ray is derived from blue-violet color laser. The name Blu-ray disc comes from blue-violet color laser used to read data and to store the data onto the disc. So Blu-ray discs are responsible for storing large volume of data among all the other discs except hard disk drive. And comes to next type of storage locations, that is portable storage devices. See, portable storage devices means something like external hard disk, pen drives, memory cards, and such type of storage devices. These are smaller in size but can store large volume of data. To carry the information, these type of devices will help us lot. Generally we used memory cards and pen drives. Very easy to transfer information from one system to another. Generally to play music, movies and all, will prefer such type of devices like pen drives and memory cards. To store more volume of data, will also use external hard disks. So these are the devices, we'll call it as portable storage devices. So external storage capacity, external hard disk storage capacity differs from 256 GB to around 1 terabytes. Nowadays even 2 terabytes of information can be stored in an external hard disk. So large volume of data can be stored even in the portable storage devices. Next we'll move on to cache memory. The spelling of this particular memory is C-A-C-H-E, but we'll pronounce it as cache. It is a cache memory, very small and very high speed memory. Cache is a very small, very high speed memory placed between RAM and processor. Placed between memory and processor. See, this type of memory, that is cache memory, will store most recently performed data. See, while doing calculations and all, it has to store some data temporarily. In such cases, we'll prefer cache memory to process the data very fastly. So cache is a memory, it's a small, very high speed memory placed between RAM and processor. It stores most recently performed data. There are different types of cache memories are there. L1 cache, that is we call it as level 1 cache. L2 cache, we'll also call it as level 2 cache. And L3 cache is also there. L1 cache, that is level 1 cache memory. This memory is processor resident. This type of cache is placed in the processor itself. Its capacity is very less, that is up to 512 KB. That is in kilobytes. Very less capacity. But it works with greater speed. The speed is enormous because it is resident at the processor itself. L1 cache is a processor resident, hence it can work very fastly because it stores most recently performed data. And L2 cache is memory resident, that is placed in the RAM. Its speed is also faster, but compared to L1 cache, bit slower because it can store up to 6 MB of information. 6 megabytes of information can be stored. This is also very high speed memory placed at RAM, that is memory resident. We'll call it as L2 cache, level 2 cache. To enhance the capacity, another cache is used, that is L3 cache, or to enhance its capacity of L1 and L2, we'll use L3 cache, level 3 cache. So, cache is a small, very high speed memory placed between RAM and processor, that is CPU. It stores most recently performed data. So, this is the contents of memory. Here, the second chapter called Input, Output and Memory Device is completed. I'll just brush up the few things of today's session. So today I started with memory units, that is information storage device. Two types of memories are there, primary memory and secondary memory. Primary memory is a temporary memory. It can store the data temporarily until the system shut down. And these are faster memories compared to secondary memory. It is also called as main memory. Generally, CPU communicates directly only with the main memories, that is primary memory. Two types of primary memories are ROM and RAM. ROM means read only memory, where we can read the information, we cannot write anything onto it. It is a non-volatile memory. Generally, to set the environment, we'll use this type of memory. And types of ROMs are PROM, EPROM, EEPROM. RAM means random access memory. It is also called as read and write memory. The speed of computer is also depends on the RAM size. Here we can read as well as write. As the RAM capacity increases, processing speed will also become faster. Types of RAMs are static RAM and dynamic RAM. Static RAM will store the information continuously until you shut down the system or power failure. Whereas dynamic RAM will get refreshed at regular intervals of time at nanoseconds. So SDRAMs were used, synchronous dynamic random access memory. Improved version of SDRAMs or DDR-RAMs, double data rate random access memory. Nowadays we are using DDR2 types of RAMs. These are very fast computer memories. The difference between ROM and RAM I discussed. ROM read-only memory, RAM random access memory. Types of ROM, PROM, EPROM, EEPROM. Types of RAM, static RAM and dynamic RAM. ROM is a non-volatile memory, RAM is a volatile memory. And ROM we can read, we can't write. RAM we can do both, read and write. Then we'll move on to secondary memory. Secondary memory is a permanent information storage device. Generally we use this particular device to store large amount of data. These are bit slower compared to primary memory because of its high storage capacity. Important secondary storage devices are hard disk, floppy disk, CD-ROMs, DVD-ROMs, Blu-ray discs and so on. Mainly this secondary storage devices are divided into two categories, magnetic media and optical media. So magnetic discs or thin circular plastic plates on which some magnetic material is coated. On the surface of the disk, it is magnetic material is coated, hence we can store and we can retrieve the information. Central shaft will hold the layers of the disk and it will rotate around 7200 rotations per minute. We can read the data simultaneously from all the layers. While storing a data and extracting a data, to analyze the memory capacity, we use invisible concentric circles called as tracks. Each track is subdivided into number of sectors. So, in magnetic disks, very important and large storage capacity disk, will call it as hard disk. Hard disk is a secondary memory, can store large amount of data. Here number of disks are rotating disks are mounted on a central shaft. Magnetic something like metal oxide material is coated on it. So electromagnetic recording heads will read and write the information over that. Read and write head will move back and forth to read the information completely. Because of its rotation speed is 7200 rotations per minute, we can read and store the data very fastly. Right from 260 MB to 8 terabytes of information can be stored. 8 terabytes means large volume of data can be stored. So this is the content of hard disk contents. So generally it is recorded or read with the help of hard disk drives, that is called as HDD. Next, another secondary storage device is, that is magnetic material, is floppy disk drives. Floppy disk drive is capable of storing and extracting a data from floppy disks. Floppy disk is a single layer plastic material, circular plate covered with plastic material. So each that layer is coated with magnetic material, hence we can store and retrieve the data. It is small and portable. Generally the sizes of floppy disks were 8-inch floppy disk, 5 1/4 inch floppy disk and 3 1/2 inch floppy disk. 3 1/2 inch floppy disk is capable of storing around 1.44 MB of information, and disk drives or floppy are used to read the contents from this disk. It is less expensive to compare to other disks. Next we move on to optical disks. Optical disk is consisting of rotating disk which is coated with highly reflective material. Laser beams are used to read and write the information. The additional device we'll use to read and write the information is compact disk drives, CD drive. We'll use that particular device. Different optical medias or optical devices are CD-ROMs, DVD-ROMs and Blu-ray discs. CD-ROMs are compact disk read-only memory. We can store up to 600 to 700 MB of data. DVD-ROMs can store up to 4.7 GB of information. That is digital versatile disk. We can store more information compared to CD-ROMs. Generally it is used for audio, video type of information. Improved version of DVD-ROMs or Blu-ray discs. In Blu-ray disc, we can store up to 50 GB of information. High definition movies can be stored in this particular disc. Generally, Blu-ray discs are derived from blue-violet color laser. Next, portable storage devices were used, like pen drives, memory cards, and external storage devices. These are all some of the portable storage devices which is easy to carry the information from one place to another place, and we can store large volume of data using this disks. And then cache memory. It is a small, very high speed memory placed between RAM and processor. Two types of cache are L1 and L2 cache. L1 is processor resident, store up to 512 KB of information. L2 is a memory resident or motherboard resident, store up to 6 MB of information. L3 cache is also there, that is used to enhance the capacity of L1 and L2. And this cache memory holds most recently performed data. That's the end of this particular chapter. Thank you. Thank you one and all. See, dear students, I told you in the last class itself, the slides are generated just to make a notes. That's why more number of pictures haven't inserted there. Only text type of data is given in the slides. It will help you to make notes. Just you can record the same contents. Definitely will get a question from this contents only. Thank you. Thank you very much.